we're talking about this today because tonight on HBO Real Sports, 2 of the 22 women who have accused Deshaun Watson of sexual aggressiveness.
And people got to stop saying rape.
Yeah, I know. Rape is really disturbing. Nobody is accusing him of raping anybody. But we've heard that thrown around. But 2 of these accusers and the lawyer are going to sit down with Soledad O'Brien. She's a longtime reporter in the industry, and they're going to give the first television interview. You'll see it tonight at 10 on HBO. I have to say, I'm a little surprised. When I first heard this, I'm like, wow. You typically won't hear either side of a case like this speak publicly before a trial. It almost, when I first heard this, I'm like, do they think there's not going to be a trial? And because it feels like there's a race to try this in the court of public opinion. Rusty Hardin, who is a famous lawyer of former athletes, he represented Roger Clemens in the past and some other noteworthy clients. He is representing Deshaun Watson in this case, and I feel like they've tried to try some of this in the media. They wafted out a document that's tried to discredit many, but not all of the accusers.
Yeah,
and
he was interviewed yesterday, Rusty.
I know, and I'm just really surprised. It makes me wonder: do they think that this thing will never see the light of day in a courtroom, and that's why they're doing this? Because lawyers, there's a reason you tell your clients not to do interviews. The more you tell a story, the more, and I'm not saying that they're not telling the truth, but the more you tell any story, the more likely you are to have any kind of inconsistency. And in a courtroom, an inconsistency leads to a lack of credibility. And I'm really surprised that they've opened themselves up to this. What say you guys?
Well, I think this has been the blueprint. This is the game plan right here. When I heard that they were going to move from 2022 to 2023 and do the cases then, I said, oh, well, this is the strategy. We'll slow play this, drip out information, do some TV stuff, drip a little more. Maybe we got some more people on the horizon. Then football season happens. The goal is Deshaun Watson has to now start playing football. There's pressures that come along with football. Don't get off to a 2-4 start. And people saying, what's going wrong with you? And now all of a sudden, hey, we might got 3 or 4 more people that we're vetting to bring along.
G. Bush, doesn't a guaranteed $240 million contract take any of those pressures away?
Well, no. No, I don't think so.
I mean, he's not playing for money. He's not worried about his contract being voided.
But you got to think about it. This is the first time he obviously wants to play, right? He hasn't played in a whole year. He's with a new team. He's in a city where there's half the city is saying, listen, we don't want you here. He wants to get off to a good start. He wants to be playing football games to get this kind of in the back burner in fans' mind.
Change the narrative.
Change the narrative. But the goal for the plaintiff is to say, well, no, we're going to put pressure. We're not going to stop in the public. We're going to turn that up a little bit. Hey, you got to go to film rooms. You got to deal with YouTube. You got to deal with Twitter. And you might deal with angry fans. Plus, we're going to still say, well, you never know. We got 5 more people that got something.
They're trying to push him into a settlement, I think, obviously.
I agree with you.
And they're pressuring it in a way that is pretty smart, really, when you think about it, because so far these women, they're just numbers to us. They're trying to put a face on them for us to actually look at. They're trying to put a face for female Browns fans, for male Browns fans who care about this sort of thing, to see these people telling their stories. I'm not saying whether they're legitimate. I'm not saying whether or not they'll be believable. But this lawyer, Rusty Hardin, great lawyer name, obviously thinks that they are going to be somebody who can push the public opinion in their favor. And I think that that's what's going to happen. And I think this is how it starts. And whether people pay attention to it or not, I don't know. But things are going to change. And you can tell that they're nervous about this because he's going on this media junket now. Rusty is. Sure. I saw I think he's on your station later on. Your station currently. Sorry, 92.3 later on. So he's going around and covering his ass
making
right
the
now
rounds.
And saying like, hey, just so you know, getting out in front of stuff because they're scared of these women going on.
By the way, it's not an accident timing-wise that somewhere in the lead into this story, Bryant Gumbel is likely to say, today on a practice field in Berea, Ohio, Deshaun Watson is beginning OTAs.
No doubt.
So the timing of this, I mean, it's very, very strategy-driven, and it's very tactical.
Guys, I got a lot to say about this. Obviously, like many things in life, this is a very complicated subject with a lot of parts, and as usual, people go to extremes on both sides of this. They've either decided he's innocent and being railroaded, or they've decided he's guilty and there's no way to see it any other way. The reality is unless you're Deshaun Watson or these women, you don't know the truth. We're all speculating. There's part of me from the beginning that was like, well, it's 22 accusations. How could it not be true? There's also another part of me that says, he's a black man in Texas where the people are angry at him, and he didn't get indicted when it's not hard to indict someone. So that makes me think maybe he's innocent.
Right.
So I've got these two conflicting things. The legal stuff so far makes it seem like he's innocent. The number 22 makes it seem like he's at least somewhat guilty, and I don't know where the truth is. The reality is, and I don't want to go too far down the weeds in this because this can get complicated and people are going to misunderstand what I'm saying. The reality could actually be somewhere in between.
He could have done things that are offensive,
yes,
but in his mind didn't cross a line.
Potentially, but we don't know, right? Now, it's also silly for us to all say, well, don't judge him, because that's just what we all do, right? But fair or not, we're not deciding whether he's got to pay or whether he, obviously he's not going to go to jail at this point. But
no, but it is a man's reputation.
It is, but the reality of it, when people judge on Twitter or if we make an opinion on it, if you say, hey, I don't know what the truth is, but hey, it's hard for me to believe this or that, people are going to make judgments. We've done it about other people in the past. We're going to do it here. The reality for me, though, in the end, is even if he did do something wrong here,
right?
Okay, if the league allows him to play, then I ultimately don't have a problem with him being on the Browns. Now, I've changed my tune on this. I used to be someone who was like, if a guy's done anything wrong, I don't want him on the team, I don't care. I always took a really strong stance on that. Even as a Bengal fan, when they first drafted Joe Mixon, I was angry. I didn't like it. I didn't want him on the team. I've changed my mind on that because there's a lot of people in a lot of walks of life who do bad things. If they don't go to jail, who am I to say they can't work? Okay, ultimately the league's going to decide what the fair punishment here is for this whole situation.
Yeah.
And in the end, I don't think it's half the people that don't want Watson.
When you said that, we don't know. Nobody knows.
Right.
If you're involved in a show like yours where you're sort of taking the pulse of the community,
it's not an accurate judgment.
It's a guess. And let's face it, the people that are moved strongly one way or another are going to speak out on this. I think the vast majority of people are in the intelligent camp. What you just said, there's one answer to do you think Deshaun Watson did something offensive to these women? There's one right answer for everybody not named Deshaun Watson or the 22 women. I don't know. I don't know because we don't.
I will say this. The public is a little more less aggressive than the media. From my perspective, when you take a look at this case in the media, the first thing you come out with is 22. You say it's 22. I don't know how I don't believe 22 people.
Yeah.
And for me as adults, I'm like, well, you can take it case by case. You can be 60 people. You have to take it case by case.
I agree, G, but I'm just saying, I'm sharing my reality. And my reality is there's half of me that's like, he had to have done something, and there's half of me that says, I don't think he did
and
anything.
That's why
and
we
really
have to
torn.
wait. That's why we ultimately should wait.
And
the public opinion through the media is so dangerous.
Yeah.
Mikey McNuggets, if we can, throw up the Rusty Hardin quote. Because, while we're talking about he's trying it in the media and some of the accusers and their lawyer are now trying it in the media, Rusty says, I've always assumed all the publicity and everything. It's going to be really hard for the NFL to have the courage to do what I think should be done, which is no finding. That all remains to be seen this summer. So he's advocating for...
And he's covering. He knows what's coming.
He's hedging his bet.
And he also looks like a great Texas lawyer. Did that guy not?
He's got the Trump haircut.
That was such a hairpiece.
I'm not sure that's his hair.
No, that's
I don't think he gets his hair cut. I think that's a snap-on. But the thing is, he makes an interesting point. And if you're defending Deshaun Watson, the thing that you want to scream from the mountaintops is let's have our day in court, in real court. Not court of public opinion, not court on TV through the media. So
let's have our day in court in 2024.
We're all going to watch this tonight. We're going to look for two things, I think. We're going to look for the credibility of the accusers, and we're also going to look to, is HBO doing a fair job in this report? Because you have to understand, they're going to tell us one side of the story. They asked to talk to Hardin and Watson, and they declined.
Right.
That's their right to say
and
no.
that would have been idiotic if he would have said yes. You don't go on, you don't go during civil litigation. You don't go on HBO.
Well, to my point, I don't think you do if you're the accusers either.
They have less to lose, though. They're they gain from this. He loses by talking in this.
But they could open themselves up to a hostile cross-examination.
Right.
If they change their stories in anything that they say tonight.
You saw that haircut. Do you think he doesn't have those women prepared? Do you think that Rusty doesn't have
that's
those women?
Deshaun's.
Oh, no, Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
What was the other guy? It's got an even better name.
Yeah,
It's
I'm not sure.
Bingo.
Tony Busby.
Yeah, Busby.
Yeah.
Tony Busby's
Sounds
got his.
so shady.
Tony Busby's got his ladies ready for testimony. I'll bet you.
I think he does.
Yeah.
And I do believe that they're going to be prepared. Look.
Yeah.
And they picked the two they probably picked the two classiest ones too.
Oh, no,
you know that.
There was vetting done.
There was vetting. See, here's the thing. We've heard 22, right? We just, if you go right back and look at the documents and you just take a look and see what Deshaun Watson's lawyer says, there's about 8 to 14 of them he names where there is issues with them. There is issues where they've told people, hey, we're in this for money. Hey, now that don't mean 22. The reality is all it takes is one.
Well, to your point,
all it takes is one to get your life screwed up, right?
We were talking before the show. If you go back to the document that Rusty released last April, where he the whole purpose of that document was to discredit the accusers. And he does mention over a dozen of these women.
Yes.
To me, what that says, by what's not in that document, why didn't we hear from all 22? I don't need 22 women to be telling the truth. I just need one.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
I think one of the sad parts about this is however this ends up resolving, it's awful because if Deshaun Watson is guilty, well, that's awful, obviously, right? If he's innocent, it's also awful because his name was run through the mud, and now when other women come out with real accusations,
absolutely,
there's going to be more of this because I have always tended to, when somebody is accused of this, my first reaction has always been I'm going to believe the woman because most people don't lie about this. And that's not always the case. But if this turned out to be one big hoax and lie, it's going to be bad for women really in these situations.
I was just
to
going to
me,
say,
that
we're old
was
enough to remember
because
Duke lacrosse.
I used to always believe them.
Right.
I did. I just said,
that's always going to be, I know what you're talking about, but that is always going to be the one touchstone that people have to go to.
There are others.
Give me
there
10
are others.
of those
there
compared
are
to
others.
the thousands and thousands and thousands of legitimate ones.
Well, here's the problem, though, with the Duke lacrosse case.
Yeah.
They were so adamant that these boys had committed this crime that the district attorney actually broke laws because he was down the rabbit hole so far he knew that he'd already picked a side, which you're never supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I think the message here is when you jump on a side and you put your flag in that side of an argument, when you don't have all the information, you're making a grave mistake.
So why
we have to take each one of these individually, and in this case, all 22 of these have to be litigated individually before we can say definitively. Now, if all 22 are dismissed before they go to trial or all 22 lose, I think that backs up what the two grand juries have already told us.
Yeah.
The grand juries have seen more evidence than anybody so far.
That's true.
And
they're the ones that have seen it all, and they say it doesn't rise to a standard of bringing charges, not convicting, to bringing
my question
charges.
is how could any sane, rational person say, I'm going to preemptively suspend you? That means you are doing something to look like you care.
Because he could have done something that violated league policy without violating the law.
Well, hold on. Well, I go to it. I always say it. And if I'm him, I'm going right back and say, well, listen, Robert Kraft was caught on tape.
I get it.
But we can't say we get it and push it to the side. You can't. The people like me say, stop with all the moral clauses. The shield, we got to protect it. No, when one of your own was caught on tape,
You're right.
You
they don't care.
I know they don't.
You telling me to care now?
But G. Bush's point is
no, they don't care.
No, they're hypocrites.
The league,
that's what we're saying. So we're telling
and
you.
I think we can all agree upon that.
Yeah, of course they're hypocrites.
The league said
we all
when
agree they're
Robert
hypocrites.
Kraft was caught on tape in a massage parlor, breaking the law,
partying,
and tarnishing the shield. There's no question
and
that was
only
bad
the
for the
women
league.
got penalized,
and they had to
Women,
pay fines.
Yeah.
Tarnishing massage table.
Now, everywhere.
Yeah.
So we know what happened in the court of public opinion, we all heard it. We saw there was videotape. We're like, wow, this dude did it. The league set a horrible precedent when it washed its hands of it and didn't punish one of the hierarchy. That's rules for thee, but not for me.
Yeah.
Right.
And now that's why the irony of this is, even though there's 22 women, the irony of this is it's very similar to what Robert Kraft was doing and paying for.
Just to be clear, we're not saying it's fair. We're just saying it's going to happen. I mean, that's the thing.
reality.
I totally agree.
But
it's nonsense.
but see, that's the problem people have in this country. This country is built on a bunch of inconsistencies. We know it's unfair. How many groups of people we got to keep telling that to? We know it's unfair, but it's just going to happen.
And that's not a good enough answer.
No,
it's
that-
not.
how
It's
is
not,
that?
but we don't have another one. It's the truth.
Well,
I'll go protest with you outside Roger Goodell's if you want.
No, I'm just saying. How's about just say, well, listen, you know what? We're going to have to wait for the civil cases. If you're upset that we don't suspend them this year, you're just going to have to get over it.
That's fine.
You know what?
But I just doubt they'll do it.
In the Robert Kraft case, I don't think there was any question of his guilt or innocence.
None.
It was caught on tape.
You know what's
that's
really
true.
complicating things? I
In
really
this
think
one, there's questions.
It's that he and to his credit, he won't settle. You know, like even Ben Roethlisberger, like when he was already talking in negotiations for settlement, that makes it easier for the NFL to say, well, he's taking some responsibility.
Absolutely.
They have what are they going to say right now?
And I think
he's taking
that's
no
a smart
responsibility. He's innocent
strategy.
until proven guilty. They can't, like with him, they could say, well, let's get this over with and get past it. They can't get past it because he won't. And I'm not saying he should. I'm just saying that's the problem.
And that's to why this is happening now. It's the defense lawyer, Busby, putting pressure on Deshaun Watson to just write the checks and get this over with. He's working for his clients. He wants paydays for his clients.
Let's get a picture of Tony Busby.
Is it possible that Deshaun Watson, because he knows there's going to be a suspension, actually wants it to happen now so he can move on from it?
That's a good question, but if you know in your heart that you did
innocent.
nothing wrong,
right.
why
It's
would you
hard.
settle? Why
But
would you?
what did Ezekiel Elliott ultimately didn't do anything wrong, and he still got suspended?
Well, I don't know that the ins and outs of the Ezekiel Elliott thing. There was a lot of smoke around that too. Nobody will convince me that nothing happened.
There's inconsistency across the board.
Yeah.
Trying to compare these things.
Here's the bottom line to G's. This will be a thesis statement of someone. NFL team owner caught on video in massage parlor. No suspension.
Yeah.
Black NFL quarterback accused by 22 women of sexual improprieties in massage, suspended, whatever.
Right.
That will be the ultimate reality for a lot of people in our country. Rightly or wrongly, those are facts.
It sucks.
And that's not it's not a good look.
In every walk of life, the billionaires get away with everything for the most part.
Doesn't mean they should continue to.
No. So where do we sign up to change that? All we can do is analyze
All
it.
we do.
Look, we ask questions. I don't have the answer.
Hey,
I can't change
You
it.
don't have the answer. We don't have the answer.
Right.
Yeah, but
And by
that's
the way,
not a good enough answer.
But by the way, and I can always say this too. Deshaun Watson could be totally. If somebody come out, there's 2 or 3 people that is listed here. There could be 2 or 3 people that come out and they got concrete, air-clad.
Yeah, but
cases,
I would think at this point, if you had concrete, you would have already come forward.
Here's my sexist statement.
hope.
Here's my sexist statement for the day. The one reason that I don't think that this is like totally made up or anything like that. I love the conspiracy theories and stuff. Have you ever been around 3 women while they're trying to order a pizza? You can't get them on the same page.
Yeah, right.
Are you telling me you can get 24 women, because there's 22 and plus the other 2, to all be quiet, agree, say this all happened to us?
It's
and
troubling.
It's really
It's
troubling.
a bad number.
So that's bad.
Mikey McNuggets, what?
Show Tony Busby real fast. I just want to make sure
do
this
we have a
lawyer looks
picture
as
of Tony
amazing.
Busby?
Yeah, hold on. Give us
We
one
need a
sec.
split screen of these guys.
Yeah,
and just say,
I'm sure-
Which one is a former quarterback and which one is an auto mechanic?
Oh, look at him.
Yeah, he's slick. He's got the pocket
so
square.
much slicker.
Even I would need the ghost of Johnny Cochran to come back for this one.
Look at
I need Johnny as my defense
That
lawyer.
guy looks like he's the lawyer for like the Russian mob.
Yes.
Yeah, he's put together, man.
But you know what?
Slick.
Rusty Harden, he's more like, he takes you off your guard. He comes in, he looks goofy, sloppy, probably on
Right.
purpose. It's smart. It's that
Yeah.
Columbo move.
Yeah,
You
and
know
then
what I mean?
and then he opens his mouth and starts his
Yep.
defense, and people
Yeah.
are like,
Y'all,
wow.
I ain't no fancy big-time
Yeah.
city lawyer, but
Right.
where I come from, we believe in something called truth.
Yeah, that's exactly what
Although
he's
I
going
don't
to
think
do.
he did Roger Clemens any favor. Clemens came off like an idiot in those.
Well,
trials.
Clemens was an idiot.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so like at least in Deshaun's, what we see in the public eye of Deshaun and the athletes that I've spoken with and the media members that covered him regularly in Houston, they all tell me the same thing. This is a stand-up dude. Like this caught a lot of folks off guard. Because
Yes.
they're like, this
There was
just is
nothing
not
bad about
this
him
is-
at all.
Where Roger Clemens was slimy from jump.
No doubt.
And not a lot of
Yeah.
people liked Roger Clemens before the allegations of HGH and all of that. Mikey, what's the internet saying about this?
All right, so last night we asked the internet, Steve, let's pull it up. What do you expect to learn from tonight's HBO special? And we got 3 answers. I'm going to read all 3, then I'd like you guys to react. So let's cut to 17, Steve. This one first comes from Joey C. Go Browns. I don't have any streaming services, so I won't be able to watch, but I wish I could.
That's our demo.
About the accusations, where there's smoke, there's fire, but I love to see the interview, though. That is the first one.
All right.
The second response we got, this from Brian Fairley Jr. Either some very uncomfortable truths or some incredibly salacious lies.
Covering his bases.
Yeah,
he
well,
is.
Brian
that's,
is.
that's the wide range right there.
Thanks, Brian.
Way to go out on a limb.
From Greenbrier Buckeye, a lot of big words from Bryant and not much more. So we covered all our bases here. Literally nothing left uncovered by those
I
two
can't
responses.
imagine anything on the show is going to change, is going to sway opinions
I
significantly
don't think it
if you've
will.
been following the story.
If you watch it and you think he did it,
Yeah.
it's going to reinforce your notion
Right.
that he did it.
Right.
If you watch this and you're highly skeptical that this happened,
Yeah.
you're probably going to come away saying the same thing. But again, we have to remember, you would never send a jury to the deliberation room after the defense or after just the prosecution.
Right.
You sit there and you listen to both sides, all of the evidence fairly displayed, so we can all look at it together and make an educated decision.
Can I
Anybody
say
that
this?
makes their decision after watching this tonight has to remember, now you've heard 2 of the 25 people involved in this drama's story.
And if I'm the lawyer, I'll say this. If I'm the plaintiff's lawyer, he's on a clock, right? Tick, tick, tick. Because as soon as Deshaun Watson, if he's not suspended this year, touches that field, the narrative's gone. Because now he can play the narrative through whether or not Deshaun Watson is good and the Browns winning. If the Browns are winning and Deshaun Watson is throwing touchdown passes, it's just going to be that much more difficult.
Are you saying there's no fear that he would get suspended week 2, 3, or 4?
No, I think to me,
Because once he starts, I don't.
once he starts the season and starts playing actual games, it's going to be a problem
You're
for
saying
them.
the story's going to go
The
away?
story goes completely away.
Unless Sue Robinson, who is the former judge,
Yeah.
who both the Players Association and the Commissioner's Office decided would be the ultimate juror in this case. She decides all of these kinds of cases. If she decides in week 3, oh wow, now I have enough, and I'm going to suspend him for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I
That's
think-
a possibility.
I just think in the end we got to remember, fair or not, and it's not fair, but the league, in my opinion, only cares about PR. They don't care about finding the truth. They don't care about, because, and ultimately, most fans that say, I'm not going to watch the Browns because of Deshaun Watson, they're full of baloney. There's like 0.001% that will actually stop watching the Browns because of Deshaun Watson.
They already did that math, and that's why they signed him.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the bet that they've made.
They knew you take the hit and then it goes away.
Yeah, and it could be a hit. All right.